Greetings and welcome to Retention Chronicles, the podcast with learnings from expert e-commerce brands and partners. I'm your host, Mariah Parsons. If you're here, you're either on a quest for e-commerce enlightenment or you accidentally clicked the wrong link. Either way, I am thrilled you stumbled into our corner of the internet, and I hope you'll stick around. We've got pearls of wisdom for everyone, whether you're running a multi-million-dollar business or simply just starting out on your entrepreneurial journey. Before we unleash the brilliance of today's guest, let's give a shout out to our podcast sponsor, Malomo. Malomo is so much more than just another Shopify app. They're post-purchase wizards, making beautiful and branded order tracking smoother than a jazz solo, so our amazing founders, like our guests, can keep their customers happy and up to date while they track their orders. So hit that subscribe button, like it'll increase your LTV overnight, and go listen to our other episodes at gomalomo.com. That's GOMALOMO.com. Get ready for insights, chuckles, and perhaps a profound realization or two with this newest episode of Retention Chronicles. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Retention Chronicles. Super excited to have you all here with our guest, Lindsay Baylor. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining me today. Some background for our listeners. We met at RICE, or Retail Innovation Conference and Expo, which is based in Chicago. And it just happened, was it last month? Last month in May. Yeah. We're recording in July. And it was the first time both of us had gone. So it was a lot of fun. Lindsay was a panelist, so we'll get into that a little bit. But before we do so, Lindsay, I'd love for you to say hello to our listeners and give a quick introduction of yourself.
Hi, it's great to see you, Mariah. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. My name is Lindsay Baylor. I'm the Senior Director of Customer Care and DEIB at Kendra Scott. So my background started in operations and apparel and customer service and all these elements. And I've been with Kendra Scott for over 4 years now, overseeing our customer care division. Any way that our customer wants to engage and interact with us, that's essentially what me and my team are working through. And I have had the fortunate pleasure in the past year of working on our diversity and inclusion area, brand new within the Kendra Scott, in which we're continuing to evolve and develop in that. So that's really been an exciting journey in the past year. For sure.
I love it. We're going to dive into both. Okay. There's so much to go into. And I want to know what the transition is like with being at Kendra Scott for 4 years. I don't think there's many of our listeners who won't know the brand of Kendra Scott, but as anyone who is an operator in the space will know, a lot of things can change in 4 years, especially, Absolutely. Personally with your own role and your responsibilities. And then also on a company level of just seeing how different things ebb and flow. We all know we had COVID, e-commerce boom. And now we're getting back to more things in the retail space and a little bit, quote unquote, normalcy in that realm. Yeah. So I would love to hear just a bit more about how the transition was through your 4 years at Kendra Scott. And then I think that'll be a really great platform to talk about, currently what your responsibilities are.
Yeah. If you're doing the math correctly, I started in the middle of COVID and the pandemic.
So just a really easy time to onboard.
Right. Which is the ideal time to switch jobs and something new, right? So, starting in July of 2020, thinking it feels like forever ago, but it's all, stuck in our brain. But being with Kendra Scott and learning how agile and adaptive they were to the ever-changing climate and the environment. And really everyone was just trying to figure out, how do we shop in a pandemic world, or hopefully post-pandemic at that time, right? And so there was really the challenge of me coming in and trying to get to the nitty-gritty of what our customers need to do in order to communicate with us and making sure that we're available for them. Kendra Scott is known for having this beautiful in-store experience. Obviously, we're able to shop online, but coming in with a company that was really trying to adapt to, buying online and shipping from store, or not being able to shop in the store, having limited capacity. My team really had to adapt to that and understand, like, okay, how do we answer those questions? How do we make ourselves available? People couldn't go to the store, so they're calling customer care, and it was overwhelming before I got there. So really prioritizing, like, what is our common means of communication that our customers are reaching out about? What is it that they have questions about? And how do we quickly get them those answers? And then just in the evolution of from 2020 to 2024, so much has evolved, not only in the world and within the retail industry and fashion industry, but within Kendra Scott. Now we're taking that experience to the next level. We've been able to offer them the connection, but now there are so many different ways that our customers want to connect with us, right? And they want an elevated experience at every touch, of the journey. And so, we really had to challenge ourselves to say, like, okay, we can't just market a phone number. They want to chat with us. They want to text us. They want to reach out on social media, either in the comments or the DMs. So really learning our various types of customers, how they want to engage with us and what they're saying over the past 4 years has been the core of the journey for sure.
That's wonderful. So would you say that when you're trying to evolve during the madness of starting a new job and also amidst a global pandemic, would you say that like all of your customers were coming to shop online during the pandemic? And then how has that shifted in terms of your customer breakdown right now? Like, do you think a lot of the customers who were shopping online was it like 50-50 split of new versus returning customers?
Sure.
Was it now, do you think that it's, everyone who is shopping online is, new or returning? Do you have any idea of like what the customer split is where people are shopping? Because I always think it's super interesting to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think we certainly learned that customers that were primarily shopping in our stores were trying to learn how to shop online, or get into our stores during that time. There certainly was and has always been this element of a large percentage of customers, or a decent percentage, I should say, that are new customers, because we have, this birthday discount that is just well known, through either word of mouth, and really getting those first time customers who are trying to understand, okay, what is that experience? How do I get that? And now I can't, it used to be something that we really focus on in the stores, but now we need to create this online experience that's easy for them to adapt to. And I think over time, we've certainly learned that our customers like to do it both ways, especially the ease of buy online, pick up in store, shopping online, being able to actually go inside the store, looking at the product, and then having also that social media experience as well too. So, we do see a lot of online only customers, but it's a lot of returning customers. It's a lot of customers who shop in all ways. And then also learning the element of the customer who's not just shopping online and in store, he or she or they are shopping on Instagram or Facebook, or TikTok, things like that. So, there's a huge amount of our returning customers who are learning new ways to engage with us. But having those other aspects has certainly opened up, a new set of customers for sure.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Totally makes sense. And I want to dive into the data piece of it because for our previous guests that have been on this podcast who have both a retail and a online arm, it's always a battle, right? Of like, you
Yeah.
get more customer data from online, but for especially Kendra Scott, where you're so based in that, that in-store experience and kind of have that,
Yeah.
for lack of word, like in lock and key, right? Like there's always things that you want to do to improve, but it's a proven experience, right?
Yeah.
What's your team's take or breakdown on the customer data that you're getting from your omnichannel experience? And can you break it down for us in terms of like, you're seeing that customers want to engage on multiple fronts and shop multiple ways. And then it's not, a last click attribution. It's not a last stop attribution maybe, but
Mhm.
it's a whole storyline that you're seeing. Someone's looking at social or
Yeah.
their word of mouth, and then they're coming to the website, but then they're waiting until their birthday to shop in person, right?
Yeah.
Like there's all these little different pieces of information that are important to the customer profile.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's interesting when you mentioned that because there's an element and we have a really remarkable internal team where, there's a lot of data that basically calls out what that journey is, whether it's through advertising and then that converting into a transaction, social media, having collaborations and special events, we're certainly seeing that there are customers where we can connect the data between the retail transactions and our e-com transactions and how they are purchasing, and what, that kind of normal how they're normally interacting with the brand, and is it a certain time of year, is she just shopping for her birthday and then we don't hear from her again? There's certainly that type of data that is really great for us to stay connected to. And we have a lot of great internal partners, my peers who are pulling that and educating us on that as well too. For the customer care side, we have that visibility as well because I really instill within my team to listen to the customer and understand. When we are interacting and connecting with the customer, they're reaching out about a question, we have the capability to see that journey ourselves, not just from a reporting aspect, but we can connect her social media, their social media engagement with us, positive or negative, how many times they reached out, what kind of questions, what her, their local store is. We have all of that visibility, which helps us really bridge that relationship with the customer when we're interacting with them. So it's certainly great to see that our customers know exactly where we are in all the different places, and they're utilizing all of those outlets. And it helps us build not only a better experience for the future, when we're all working together on like new collaborations and, new products, but also helps us train our specialists who are, the customer facing on how this person has interacted with the brand, and we can really be intelligent about that.
Yeah, I
Hopefully that
love
makes
that.
sense.
No, it does. That makes so much sense. So what I'm hearing is, and this is definitely where I own the realm in which a lot of the times I'm talking to smaller teams who don't
Yeah.
have this wealth of information and resources who are able to tie back to whatever start
Yeah.
date that a customer is
Yeah.
interacting with your team and your brand, and be able to trace along and say, this is okay, 5 years ago when they first interacted with us, and this
Yeah.
is where they are today. And we can use that information to be able to tailor an experience and a specialist and
Absolutely.
let them know that, okay, this is the pattern that we're seeing. So I actually think what I'm realizing through this conversation is that obviously there's a lot to there's a lot of, I don't want to say issues, there's a lot of new topics or challenges that come up when you're
Yeah.
scaling a brand, right? But when you
Absolutely.
have, it's like something always comes with another thing. You have the plethora of data that you
Yeah.
can then analyze and look to your peers to, look at the data and say,
Yeah.
where am I seeing this person? What like, even like break it down by location of who is going to what
Absolutely.
store and where does it make sense of it all. So I think it's a very valuable lesson to our listeners here, to keep in mind of having the access to data, even though it's a huge database, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely overwhelming in that sense. There's a lot to be said about having it inform your customer care team. And I would love to dive into, I guess, more of the technical aspects of like any technology that you're using that is helping you, when someone inbounds to your support team. Um, how are you pulling all that different data? Is it from multiple platforms? Is it from one
Yeah.
platform? All of that. Because I think anything that is technical, even if a brand is, aspiring to be of a certain size and they're not quite there yet, it's always interesting to just hear how someone who is an operator in the day-to-day is using technology to make, their lives and their customers' lives better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the opportunity is to find something that puts it all together, right? Because there's
Yep.
so many platforms and things that my team works in. I'm really, really fortunate to have a very knowledgeable team, a team that a lot of my teammates are specialists come from retail, so they understand how the store experience is. There are so many people who have been here longer than I have, so their wealth and depth of knowledge of the product's history is like super valuable, and have seen the evolution of technology within servicing our customers. I think, it's been fascinating to see how things have advanced over the past couple of years, but I think there's such an opportunity to always make it better, to make it more efficient for our specialists to better service our customer. I think we are in a place of just surviving, when we first started, because we were in the pandemic. So it's like, how many ways can we take, as many calls as possible? Now we have data that can actually
You learn that,
show us,
Yeah.
what are our key times, through the week, hours of the day. And then implementing chat in the past year has been incredible. Unfortunately, when I started, there was no chat feature at all, which was, a little mind-blowing to me. And being able to successfully add chat features for our customers has been able to help us understand how are they searching our website, what were they looking at before, maybe they're confused, or maybe there are some opportunities in making this a little bit more clear, or seeing where everyone is automatically driving to. And now my specialists have that visibility, which is fantastic, because it just makes the ease of everything go from just answering a question to like making it a whole full experience for the customer. And then also like upselling, or creating opportunities there, whereas before it was just kind of like, I'm clicking here, answering the phone here, putting it down, so it's been great to be able to see what our customers are seeing, and study who they are, and what they love, and how they operate with the brand. And it certainly elevates our customer service, and there's always opportunities to get better, for sure.
Yeah. I love what you said about the, it is kind of one of those things with a chat that you are like, oh, how are we not here yet? And this is something that I see a lot. And I know we were talking about order tracking before hopping on this call, of just like, as a consumer, because I work in this industry, yes, whenever I'm shopping online, I'm like, oh, so interesting. I'm like, now my expectations are so much higher, because I know all the different technologies that are out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But even before being in this industry, of expecting a good customer experience, and I think what you said about having the chatbot and just being able to tell a more well-rounded story around, okay, this person is coming to our website because they need this, but because we can help them so efficiently, and you're freeing up some of your support, queues or support tickets, because you're able to kind of proactively be on the front end of things. You might have that experience to upsell, or you might be seeing like, oh, multiple customers are coming to us for this specific question. Let's like put this in an email, or let's put this somewhere where it's like, oh, they don't have to inbound to us, because we're proactively messaging them about it. So I would love to dive into that a little bit, because we see it all the time with, order notifications, specifically more around like, obviously, where's my order, and those types of tickets, which I know you're very familiar with. And so I think, like, I've heard from either firsthand or secondhand from our team of some of the worry around adding new technology or adding something that's new, is that it might create more problems than it solves, or it might, our team might not be able to handle this kind of support because we already have all these other channels, or, XYZ reasons not to do it. But countering that point, there's also a lot of other reasons that you might not be thinking about that might help your team, like you just explained, that you can potentially cross-sell or upsell from a support chat widget that you wouldn't expect, at the face value. So I'd love to go into that a little bit more, of how you were actually thinking about, okay, right decision to put this chat bot into our tech deck. And then I guess it sounds from your panel and then also this conversation that it did eradicate a lot of the worries that your team was had at the
Yeah.
time. So I'd love to hear just more about like what the actual experience was implementing that and then onboarding your team. Was it better, worse, neutral than you anticipated anticipated it being?
Yeah, I mean, D, all of the above. I think first of all, adapting to change, is a journey,
Mm-hmm.
for your team. So, and I think some of them have had, not a positive experience when it comes to chat, whether it's experiencing it with another brand or, preconceived notions. So, there was a little bit of test and learn, and there's also like the adapting of understanding what customers are doing by channel, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like when someone's calling versus emailing versus social media versus chat, and even breaking it down to social media platforms, that the way that people communicate what they're looking for, even if there's not a reactive need and it's just like engagement, in general, it varies from channel to channel, I think the onboarding of it was pretty smooth. And a lot of that is just having a great, vendor and partner and really understanding what we've all experienced and our needs. I think the opportunity, certainly lied in we created the spot really thinking that we knew what our customers were looking for, and then being able to kind of test and learn that, okay, people are not choosing this option, they're choosing this option. And why are they choosing this option? And then being able to say, like, let's get into testing this AI space. People like the options, but they really want to type. They don't want to feel like they aren't in control,
Yeah.
and so that certainly challenged the team to certainly think differently when it came to our customers. Also making the bot better, very quickly was great. And then being able to pull that data to understand like, okay, you know what, maybe this is an opportunity and for the next launch, the next collaboration, we can get ahead of clearly communicating to our customers on this aspect or making it easier for our customers to be able to learn this bit of information, so there's so many varying elements of takeaways, when you implement something like that. And like you mentioned before, it can only improve the experience in the future. And now there are things that have occurred that were like, okay, for holiday 2024, we experimented with doorbusters, last
Mm-hmm.
year, and it was fantastic, and now we have so many great takeaways and making sure that the communication is clear. If we do decide to do a doorbuster, how do we set that up for the customer? How does my team get prepared for that? So I don't think we would have learned some of those elements if we didn't have the chat, and some of those other takeaways and really learning from our customers in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. To kind of round out this conversation, and then we'll move more into like CX insights and customer care and um, everything that your wealth of knowledge will supply there. Where do you look to when you're kind of, you have this problem that you want to solve and you want to implement some technology to help you solve it? Who are you kind of looking at or where are you looking? Is it partners that you're already working with? Is it other leaders in the space? Is it your peers that are, you mentioned that they had been in retail before. How are you
Yeah.
kind of hearing about these new solutions to the things that you're trying to solve?
I think, it's always best to make sure that you're learning what's out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because um this environment is not black and white and it's ever
Yeah.
evolving. And so really challenging yourselves to be at, the RISE convention and networking and understanding from your peers, outside of your brand is super important. But really listening to our customers is what helps us evolve and grow. And I mean, I know I kind of mentioned that before. It's so easy to get stuck in like, this is the way that we've always done things,
Mm-hmm.
but our customers are boss. Kendra always says that, and we truly use that as a mantra, especially within customer service. So sometimes they provide great feedback, or we're putting two and two together that, people don't want to experience, shopping for single studs in this way. Like how do we make it, here's some feedback. And I think really challenging myself, my team to share feedback, even if it's just one or two customers that day. You have to kind of think about like, not everyone's super vocal, in sharing their thoughts, with a brand. And while, sometimes you're kind of like, it's kind of interesting that someone would ask, say that to us and send us an email and say, you should do this, or, I was so confused when I was shopping this way. I didn't realize it was a single stud, even though we're seeing it in that way. It challenged us to kind of put our hat on, outside of the brand and pull, another key stakeholder in and really unpack some processes. So we have so many ideas and so many wish lists. And even when we say it out loud, it's such a great environment for collaboration internally, because we could have an idea and then working with the e-com team or web merch or something like that, we're kind of dialoguing and then creating, a smoother experience. So I'm truly grateful that, we have valuable relationships internally where they actually listen to customer care and value our feedback, and we can share that even, down to design, and marketing. So, sharing that feedback internally is kind of how we can make improvements. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yes, 100%. Our chief customer officer, she always, when we're seeing customer reviews and all that come through, it is always either it's like two extremes of an experience, right? Someone who had a really tough time or really, really frustrating time, or someone who had an excellent time. And so it's hard to kind of put yourself in the eyes of someone who like just had very like neutral, good time because it's not usually the insight that you're getting into the customer experience, because people often will vocalize if it's
they'll vocalize if it
an
was
outlier
awful or outstanding. Exactly. So that's
so it totally makes sense. And I think that I also relate to that as a consumer, where if I usually get an email from someone of like, would love to know your experience, unless I truly had like a great time or an awful time, I'm not going to respond, right? So I get it from a customer standpoint, but that's why I think it's so valuable if you can put in like that little extra effort, and then you'll hopefully automatically see that a lot of people are coming and tipping more into the scale of, I had a great experience, or I appreciated this, or this follow-up email really, really admired or really respected that you asked for my opinion to get better.
Exactly. Well, and someone responded, right? Because, we're still consumers, and we've interacted with the brands. And to your point, being on the side of it and knowing what happens when people respond or click 3 stars or 4 stars and things like that. Sure, I've taken the time, it takes a lot for me to complain about, an experience, whether I'm shopping or ordering something online. So, I think I always challenge myself to see how other brands are doing it. And, there's been times where, it hasn't been negative, and I'm just like sharing feedback, of course, in a very constructive way. And no one responds to you, it like lights a fire, or you get this auto response, and then it just challenges me even more to make sure that we are really personalizing and customizing every interaction, that we have with our customer, whether it's responding to a comment on Instagram or via DM or via email. Like, we are not a copy paste team, really sit down and listen to what the customer is saying. And you get so much positive interaction, when that happens, because you can tell that there's someone, behind that thought, and there, there's a human there that actually really cares. So.
Let's dig into that a little bit. So in terms of like commenting back on people on social media, does that fall under the responsibility of your team? Okay. I always find it so fun to ask, like, is it marketing or is it customer success, customer care, customer experience? Because of those reasons where it's like, different, it is like it
Well,
becomes a
it's a
support
little
channel.
blurry, right? I
Yep.
mean, we're part of the marketing team. We work super closely with our fantastic, innovative content and marketing team. But yeah, that's us replying to comments with, emojis and engaging
Yep.
with people and things
Putting your
like
marketing
that.
hat on.
Exactly, which, kind of goes back to what we were talking about with like implementing chat and how does that um, feel with your specialist, right? Having to have, and that started right when I started as well too, telling the team like, hey y'all, we're gonna take on social media and you
Hmm.
gotta put your, sunshine hat on, especially during depending, because there's a lot of areas where
1,000%. Yeah.
there's opinions,
Hmm.
and
And very
learning.
visible.
Right. We are a representation of the brand at all times, so it needs to always be consistent, customers are boss, shining through everything that we do, like truly, and then that's how it is internally. So learning how to communicate again via channel has certainly been a journey for
Yeah.
myself and for my team.
Yeah, yeah. I think that segues really nicely into talking about your role with DEIB and like how
Hmm.
you want to represent Kendra Scott in both, right, the external branding, but
Yeah.
also internally making sure that you're all on the same page, that you're all communicating well, and that you're proud to represent a brand that is
Right.
able to represent and serve so many different types of customers. Because we have, right, the like ideal customer profile of like
Absolutely.
this is this person, but the reality is that's just like a simple way. That's a way to simplify the
Yeah.
customer so that you can actually try and attempt to like sell well, right? Like there's never one customer who's the same.
No.
So I would love to take probably like the last 10 or so minutes of our conversation to really dive into that because we haven't had someone who is both sitting on both teams at a brand.
Yeah.
And especially such a big brand. So I would love to know like how your experience is swinging into both and how you're looking at serving Kendra Scott well, serving yourself well, serving your team well, and serving your customers well at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, having the opportunity to think about diversity and inclusion and belonging and equity for Kendra Scott has just been remarkable and amazing. And similar to what you're saying, one of the things that I quickly learned at Kendra Scott is we don't have one type of customer. They are from all over, various ages. Some people are buying intentionally for, gift giving. There's someone who's trying to treat themselves, even going into engagement, and really having the opportunity from the customer care side. That was something working with our CMO, Michelle Peterson, and saying like, we're seeing these different types of customers, we're hearing from them all day, every day. Half of them are giving suggestions. Half of them are saying, oh my God, I love this. Thank you so much for extended sizing or, making more sizes, in rings and things like that, or necklace extenders. So being able to advocate for the brand, and what our customers are looking for, who are already our customers, right? We're able to kind of amplify, some of those customers in a various way and speaking to them in a really authentic way that they can connect to. I think sometimes, and I'm still learning, in this space, but sometimes it's not a plug and play type of philosophy.
Yeah.
You can't just check a box. It has to be very authentic to what is the culture, of various types of people. What does it mean? Are we speaking to them through our marketing, through our images in a way that feels authentic, and that I can connect to, even as a Black woman, so it's really been amazing to really dissect and dive into what our customers are seeing, but also looking at other brands, and seeing where the opportunities lie. And sometimes it's just about challenging yourself to say, like, okay, maybe we never embarked upon, showing a model in that way, or,
Mm-hmm.
hearing that there's so many women who are looking for larger size rings, or wanting to style, some of our items in a particular way. We think about some of our pendants and icons, that we have done a fabulous job, that represents all different, spiritualities and things like that. So let's open and challenge ourselves more that there are some other spiritualities and things like that that we can respectfully include and, you know, being very intentional about how we roll that out and allocate them to the stores and things like that. So, um, I'm super proud of what we've been able to accomplish, externally, but also internally as well too. It's just like having the conversation, Um, I always tell, because we have a council that we initiated about 3.5 years ago, and being able to have our employees have a voice even louder than they did before to kind of share, their experiences encourages others, from all backgrounds and cultures and things like that. So internally, it's been really great to see. And I think we have to continue to focus on that internally in order for us to continuously share how DEI is evolving authentically externally. So that's what we've been really focusing on. And it's really, really been great for the brand to continue to embrace that.
Wow, I love that. There's so much to dive in there.
Yeah,
Dive into
I'm
there.
sure.
No, I'm like, I have to go through it in my mind to be like, I have to hit on this.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing and giving such a comprehensive overview, kind of externally and internally. One of the things that I know through my experience, I worked with a nonprofit where I was the director of DEI, and it's
Mhm.
focused in entrepreneurship. And so it is very inherent as or very central to being an entrepreneur that you're talking to a lot of different people, you're getting a lot of different opinions, and we can focus it in obviously in your industry of something that is so like DEI is so inherent to obviously your persona, your identity, and that's why it
Yeah.
can be something that is difficult to talk about because you're sharing a lot about yourself and your experiences. And when I think about overlaying that in the jewelry industry of just taking pride in the jewelry that you're wearing, and it's something
Yeah.
that I mean, I'm a very jewelry centric person. I wear a lot of rings, a lot of earrings.
Yeah.
And like I take pride in how I, like customize each outfit with with my
Sure.
jewelry, right? So, but when you look at like a layer deeper than that, it is you're trying to express yourself in ways that are signaling to other people of like, this is what I take pride in, this is my personality, this is
Yes.
where I'm different from other people, this is where I like to stand out. And so it makes a lot of sense externally that like as a consumer, I want jewelry that will, obviously make me feel good about my situation, my skin,
Yeah.
my looks, my
Represents you.
body,
Yeah.
everything, because it is
Yeah.
something that is so inherent in like your style and your persona. And then internally, I relate to everything you're saying because our founder at Malomo, he's a Black entrepreneur. And so like he is so brilliant in his leadership
Mhm.
style because he brings everyone in and he makes it a very psychologically safe environment to share and
Yeah.
bring in new ideas, whether it's your first day at Malomo or even if you're not at Malomo, right? Like he is taking
Yeah.
in everyone's opinions, or whether it's you've been at the company for 5 years, since day one. And so I love to hear when other companies are echoing those types of sentiments and that we're in a society right now that is able to recognize, okay, little things that, quote
Yeah.
unquote, seem so little to us that maybe we wouldn't have thought about if an employee or if a customer hadn't brought it to us, that like a different ring size, and
Yeah.
then they can shop and they can get the ring that they've been dying to want, like that they've been wanting to have, or a necklace extender, something that is something we would call quote unquote small, where it's like, oh, that we can do that. That's an easy
Yeah.
fix, right? But to
Exactly.
someone else, it makes their world because you don't know how long they've been looking at that item and been
Sure.
saying, I want that.
Yeah.
So I love to hear the kind of overlays of external and internal DEIB and how you're able to serve in that role. And one of the other things I wanted to ask you about was more I guess the customer insights that you're gaining on the customer care team, and how, if at all, if that's filtering into the DEIB conversations that you're having internally of, we're seeing that beyond like, I guess I'll call it product development or
Yeah.
the customer care team of just being able to have, from your day-to-day experience, seeing like, okay, these customers are really pushing for this. And you can kind
Yeah.
of have that, I'll call it objective data to support something like DEIB that can be so subjective. I wonder,
Yeah.
does that help to have kind of like both of them coupled together?
Absolutely. To start with your first question, one of the things that I truly admire here is, philanthropy is the core of what we do, and giving back and working alongside our incredible philanthropy team and really feeling, the giving back and the care, not only for our employees, but our customers and everything that we do. Seeing that firsthand from when I first started, it was kind of like hard to believe,
Right.
but it's
Yeah.
truly consistent, in my experience, and it's really embedded in everything that we do. And I think that helps us evolve into this sense of belonging, right? And one of the things that we've been doing in the past few months is really dissecting, like, what does that mean? And
Mm-hmm.
it's something that you kind of alluded to as well. It's like seeing yourself and feeling comfortable, internally, whether you're an employee or whether you're a customer. And that's the opportunity in how does that evolve externally, whether it's through our marketing or through our product, is, are we seeing ourselves in everything it is that we do? And that's not a slippery slope, but it can be a runaway train, of
Yeah.
ideas, and it still has to be authentic to like who we are, as a brand, and and creating products and things like that. But it's certainly challenged the way that we all think internally, sharing information. We're creating a space where people can share their ideas, even including myself, or having a large population of Latina, Hispanic, individuals within our brand, and having over 90% women, we have so many opportunities there to ensure that we're always thinking about that belonging aspect, internally, which has certainly challenged our way of thinking externally as well too. So it's something that can feel uncomfortable. I think when people say DEI, I don't know why people sometimes get uncomfortable a little bit, but it's just
Like
about,
bristle a little. I think it's, yeah,
yeah,
anxious.
but it's just about, creating that sense of belonging and really challenging, where are the opportunities that we can think of, and making sure that it's authentic in what we do consistently, in that way. And then I can further your second question.
Yes, yeah. So mainly it was like, how do you like see them coupling in terms of like being able to have perhaps more data on the customer care
Yeah.
side of things to then
Yeah. Sorry.
I don't want to say bolster, but I guess bolster might be the best word there of like, okay, we're getting this subjective
Yes.
input. How do we back it up with the data? Because, right, like business is business. And so you have to
Yeah.
be like, okay, here's the data to then back it up. And I can see with your responsibilities that they would obviously play well together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, the data is there,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really, proud of our team in being able to compile data, because when we do see like product suggestions or just general feedback, whether it's with, a launch, or, people are always suggesting things, which I think is so very cool that
Mm-hmm.
people, have the courage to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
I love that they feel comfortable in sharing that. That all comes our way, and whether it's one or two ideas, when we celebrate Black History Month or Hispanic Heritage Month or even Pride Month, being able to capture some, and even throughout the year, it doesn't have to be specific to a cultural observance, but we are certainly pulling that together. And then really using that as like a roundtable internally to say like, okay, we've had 500 customers mention this particular area. This is something that we could really do, and having a fantastic, design and merch team that will execute on that.
Yeah.
It's been really great to see, but we certainly have the data, and really being able to, I mean, listen, you can glide over anyone recommending something, but we want to hear from our customers and they are very vocal, especially on social media. I don't know if you're keeping up, but we recently launched like these sports pendants, and the response to that has just been really incredible. But it certainly like makes you think about like, okay, well, let's challenge our way of thinking beyond, any kind of pendant, and so the feedback from our customers is something that we compile, and we certainly share that on a consistent basis, whether it's with marketing, design, e-com, helping it position and merchandise on the website, so it's been really great to collaborate on those opportunities for sure.
Yeah, I love hearing that. And I also just think I'll add this in before we wrap up, even though I don't want to, but I always have to. I guess the new wave of energy that things like this can bring in, right? Of being able to kind of have a roundtable and look and say like, oh my God, we had a huge successful launch with this one thing. Where else can we take it? And I think that's it's definitely intimidating because there's a lot to do. There's a lot you could try and tackle with that. But I think the smartest teams can kind of like what's like pebble stones, rock stones, I don't leap stones, I don't know, like a pond, right? Different one step at a time, and be able to say like, okay, these sports pendants did well, like what's something that is the next step forward, what's the next after that, right? And just like start to chip away at all these exciting launches and collabs and ideas that are just more inclusive when you look at like the base of the consumer. And I it'll never cease to fascinate me just to hear about, the directions that certain brands are going and innovating. And I think that's something that makes this industry as a whole so awesome to be in and just be a part of, even if it's for a little bit of time, because it's fast paced, but man, is it fun.
It's fast paced, it's fun, and one other thing I wanted to mention is like it also is from the DEI aspect great to really challenge ourselves on not just saying like, okay, we're going to create a new item, but like thinking about our current brand, an assortment, like customization, is a really fantastic aspect of Kendra Scott, and being able to share the opportunities, how you can customize something that represents you, right? And so, especially thinking about Mother's Day, different languages, our symbols or things like that, that could represent something more than what you would characteristically or generally think about, and so our marketing team and, our creatives teams have been phenomenal in supporting that, amplifying that, and really listening, to our internal suggestions. So it's been fantastic to see.
Oh, I can't wait to watch from the sidelines. Just to see the, what you all will be rolling out, and then obviously to continue to stay in touch. But this has been so, so, so amazing. Thank you so much for making the time, Lyndsay. It's always my pleasure to get to meet people like you in person and then obviously follow up virtually. So I really appreciate you taking the time with your double-edged sword of being able to tackle everything customer retention, customer experience, and then DEIB. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. This has been great. It's been amazing to talk to you again. So
this
is awesome.
I'm glad to hear it. We'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks.